From surprise champions to the rise and fall of dominant Pokemon, the 2025 Pokémon World Championship changed everything. Is this the most accomplished Pokemon of all time? Did trainers from this region just do something historic? And when will my poor Midwestern face stop peeling from the brutal California sun? Today, we're looking at the kind of history only the Pokémon World Championship can make. Hey chimps, my name is Professor Josh and I specialize in Pokemon VGC history and lore. If that kind of thing interests you, check out my channel where I dive into the most iconic moments, legendary trainers, and unforgettable battles in VGC. In today's video, we're going to highlight the smaller stories you might have missed during the 2025 Pokemon World Championship. From record-setting Pokemon to historic region performances, these are the kind of moments that might not dominate the headlines, but they deserve their time in the spotlight. So, without further ado, let's look at some of the stories you should know from the Pokemon World Championship. What is the most accomplished Pokemon after Worlds 2025? When Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were released, they brought a wave of non-legendary Pokemon with legendary level stats. I mean, look at this thing. If you told me in 2022 that this was the box art legendary for Scarlet, I'd have believed you. But one Paradox Pokemon had outperformed the rest by a wide margin. Iron Hands. Now listen, I bragged about this in my Worlds 2024 video, link in the description, screen, whatever, but I was early on the Iron Hands hype train. But back in Series 2, everyone was like really obsessed with Fluttermane, but I saw how ridiculous Iron Hands was right from the start. I am truly your Pokemon professor. Now, after a dominant run in both 2023 and 2024, I thought I was going to be vindicated once again. So, did Iron Hands carry the crown at the 2025 Pokemon World Championship? Not really. Looking at the data, this was a rough year for Iron Hands. It finished as only the third most used Paradox Pokemon, appearing on just 8.9% of teams throughout the entire weekend. Its highest placement came from US player Patrick Connors, who finished 33rd overall. So then, what was the most successful non-restricted Pokemon at Worlds 2025? That title clearly belongs to Incineroar, who showed up on a whopping 56.6% of all teams. Incineroar wasn't just popular. It was on more than half of the top 32 teams, including the runner-up team piloted by James Evans. However, if we're focusing only on Paradox Pokemon, then the crown belongs to the Pokemon known as the non-restricted restricted, Raging Bolt. It was the most used Paradox at 26.2% usage, which is pretty impressive. But my personal pick for best of 2025? Fluttermane. And yeah, that does hurt to admit. Fluttermane clocked in at 14.3% usage, second amongst Paradox Pokemon. But its real achievement was winning the entire tournament in the Masters division. That gives it 2 World Championship titles, tying it with Iron Hands for the most world titles amongst Paradox Pokemon. Now, who pulls ahead in this race? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out at Worlds 2026 in San Francisco. Oh, and speaking of what's next, if you've followed this channel, you know I love Pokemon VGC history. But more than that, I love telling the stories behind the game's most historic moments. That said, I think it's easy to forget that for every Pachirisu Saging Park moment, there are probably a dozen smaller stories quietly shaping the course of VGC history every single week. If you like this kind of storytelling, short, little weird, then stick around. I'm going to experiment with a new bi-weekly series covering these little history moments. No need to scour the internet or sit through 2 hours of me rambling. These videos will be short, to the point, and posted every other week. I'll give it a few months and see what you all think, so subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and thank you. Oh, and if you're enjoying this video so far, please, please, please consider giving it a like. It really does help me out. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Let's talk about actual restricted Pokemon. There's always been a debate around which restricted Pokemon is the strongest. This conversation comes up every time they return to competitive play, and opinions vary. Gen 9 babies will point to Koraidon and its recent performances. Others might say Calyrex Shadow Rider because of how often it's used by content creators, but my personal pick, Mewtwo. And that's because this guy's a scientist and he said that Mewtwo's the strongest.
We dreamed of creating the world's strongest Pokémon. And we succeeded.
Did you know his name's Dr. Fuji, by the way? Bet you didn't. Anyway, at the 2025 World Championship, one restricted Pokemon stood out above the rest, beloved by every onlooker. Ho-Oh, just kidding, but shoutouts to Yoshitaka Izawa, who was the only trainer who brought Ho-Oh to the tournament. He finished day one with a 7-1 record, ultimately placing 11th place overall. But this story is really about the other restricted on his team, Koraidon. Koraidon was the featured restricted Pokemon on both of the top 2 teams at Worlds this year. It was the only restricted used by our new champion in the entire finals match. Apparently, there was a Lunala on that team too, but you wouldn't know it from watching the battle. Despite only appearing on 12.7% of teams, that's just 47 teams out of the entire tournament, Koraidon's results were undeniable. It wasn't just on the top 2 teams either. It also appeared on 5 of the top 16 teams. In terms of usage, it rivaled Calyrex Shadow Rider at the top level, but with a notably higher win rate. Next time restricted Pokemon return to the format, you need to remember this. Your competition will remember these results. But just as surprising as Koraidon's results were the showings of its counterpart, Miraidon. Miraidon might have had the biggest fall off of the entire tournament. Despite expectations after its 2024 title, it did not deliver. Yes, it appeared on nearly half of all teams, but by top 32, there were actually more Dragonite left in the tournament than Miraidon. And that is probably the thumbnail. This region just made Pokemon history. Here's a quick recap for those newer to VGC. Since 2015, there's been an unofficial, completely accidental trend of Japan winning every World Championship in an odd-numbered year. But that wasn't the only piece of regional history at stake. As commentator Joe Brown pointed out during the official Worlds broadcast, going into the tournament, there was a possibility for a tie between rivals North America and the EU for 4 World Championships apiece. For reference, here's where the current championship count stood at the start of the tournament. Japan with 6 or 4 championships, depending on whether you think the first true World Championship was 2008 or 2010. North America with 4 championships. Europe with 3. And Latin America and Korea tied at 1. Well, this year, North America did something historic. With North American players winning all 3 age divisions, juniors, seniors, and masters, they not only held their ground at the top of the standings, they extended a very rare and underappreciated streak. This year marks the 4th time North America has swept all divisions in a year they won Masters. Let me show you. 2011, North America takes every age division. 2012, North America takes every age division. 2016, North America takes every age division. And now, 2025, North America, same story. The only miss in this pattern was 2010, when Ray Rizzo won the top division, but Japan's Shota Yamamoto took juniors. In the entire history of the game, only one other region has pulled off this kind of sweep, and that was Japan in 2023. And no other region has done it more than once. That is a huge achievement. Congratulations. Of course, this also marks the end of Japan's every other year World Championship streak in the Masters division. But hey, sometimes that's just how history plays out. And finally, as I always do with these Pokemon World Championship videos, I want to offer a huge congratulations to this year's VGC World Champions. Congratulations to Luke Whittier, your 2025 VGC Juniors Division Champion. Congratulations to Kevin Hahn, your 2025 VGC Seniors Division Champion. And a massive, well-earned congratulations to Giovanni Siski, your 2025 Masters Division Pokemon World Champion. Now, for some of you, seeing a name that isn't Wolf Glick or Paul Chua in the winner's seat might have been a surprise. But if you've followed this scene for a while, you know just how deserved this win was. Gio has always been close. So many near misses, so many times where it looked like he might break and win the entire tournament. And now, he finally has. I love Gio's story. He's a player who truly loves this game, worked relentlessly, and never gave up. And that's what makes this win so powerful. He's a reminder that you might not win in your first year, or your 5th, or even your 10th. But if you stick with it, if you keep showing up, then maybe, just maybe, the world is yours to take. To all this year's champions, your accomplishment is extraordinary. Throughout all the obstacles, all the bad luck, and all the pressure, you pulled off something most players will only ever dream of. And because Pokemon is forever, your names are now etched into history.
Just like that, Giovanni 60 is your 2025 Pokémon World Champion!
In an arena with over 5,000 live fans watching. Unprecedented in Pokemon video game history. An arena that's crowned Olympic champions before. Gio now can call himself world champion. His very first tournament win. And what better way to do it than to win the world championships?
Thanks for watching.
Pika pika.
Hey, the answer you have been waiting for is not soon enough. My pasty Midwestern complexion is no match for the California sun, and I will probably be peeling until the next World Championship. Anyway, you might have noticed a bunch of the clips from, you might have noticed a bunch of clips from my Twitter account, or X, or whatever you're calling it, popping up throughout this video, and that is because a lot of these stories that I've been telling, I was actually sharing them live as they were happening over there. Look, I am not trying to be subtle. If you have an X account, I want you to follow me. It's way easier for me to interact with you guys over there. I share stories, I repost cool updates from other content creators, and sometimes I give away stuff that I don't need. Just consider it, okay? All right, that's enough shilling. I will see you soon, champs, and